Hello, and welcome to a retrospective breakdown of The Acolyte Part 1. Of course, we could all see in real time as the episodes air that The Acolyte was a poorly written show. After the completion of the first and hopefully only season after I've seen what this show touches, just how bad really was it all? How well does it hold up upon a rewatch given all that we know now? We will be going through the episodes mostly in chronological order, except for the flashback episodes. These episodes will be covered together later on rather than separately. My reasons for this are A. To create a more cohesive breakdown of the entire flashback in full context, and B. When you rewatch the flashback episodes doesn't actually matter in the grand scheme of the show. The placement of these episodes have absolutely no bearing on the overall plot of the season. They are simply there for the audience to have more context of the past events that the characters often reference throughout the show. You can treat episodes 3 and 7 like mini prequels and watch them before episodes 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8. You can watch them both halfway or have it all laid out before the semi-finale and finale. As long as you watch them before the end of the show, it doesn't matter. This retrospective breakdown will be a 4-part series. Part 1 will cover episodes 1 and 2 together since these are the episodes that premiered together. Part 2 will be episodes 4 and 5, day and night, since those are thematically tied together. Part 3 will be covering the flashback episodes 3 and 7 together in full context. And lastly, Part 4 will be covering episodes 6 and 8. Since these are separated by a flashback episode, narratively these are the true semi-finale and finale episodes. There's a lot wrong with the show to talk about. So much so that even though by now I will have watched these episodes more than anyone should be humanely allowed to, some issues will have bound to have fallen through the cracks. Or perhaps you have the answers to one of my burning questions. I welcome and encourage you to leave a comment about anything I might have missed. I've been hearing a lot lately that if you use the word woke in any sort of criticisms of this show, that it automatically dismisses and invalidates any of those criticisms.
If somebody who doesn't like the show can criticize it without saying the word woke, then I may be able to listen to them. But if you throw in that word, poof, be gone, bitch.
Those of you out there that feel this way will be relieved to know that I don't intend to use that word at all. In fact, I'll make sure I don't. I'll probably make some jokes and highlight aspects of the show in ways that will still piss off people that can't handle the show being joked about or held to any sort of scrutiny. Oh well. We start off with a good old-fashioned text crawl. No wait. Text post? Let's see here. 100 years before the rise of the Empire, it is a time of peace. The Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic have prospered for centuries without war. But in the dark corners of the galaxy, a powerful few learn to use the Force in secret. One of them, a lone assassin, risks discovery to seek revenge. Well, this just feels like a promotional post from a Star Wars social media account. But sure, whatever you say, show. I guess that's setting the scene. 100 years before even the prequels? Oh, well that's good. At least that means it won't mess with anything from those movies then, right? We open with our mysterious DEI arcside assassin on a planet we haven't seen called Ueda, which I will say already gets a point in my book for not being Tatooine for the 4th TV show in a row, or some other boring desert planet. Wait, stop. We're like in the second frame and there's already a problem. In the background, we can see what we know now to be Kymir's ship, and we know now that Kymir is the big bad Smilo Ren. Is he waiting in the ship for her, or did he let her borrow it and hope she would survive her mission and return with it? What if the assassin May failed and died? Smilo has only one ship.
With what ship? I'm taking mine.
So if he isn't with her and is on the unknown planet and she fails to return, he's stranded. At the end of this episode, we see May rendezvous with Smilo on what we now know or don't know as the unknown planet. And then right after this, in the start of episode 2, we see May rendezvous with Kymir on the planet Olega. So if Kymir and May obviously have only one ship that they are both using between the two of them, how do they both get from the unknown planet to Olega while Smilo switches back to Kymir without May noticing they are the same person using the same ship? This reminds me of that episode of Family Guy where Stewie pretends to be his own sister Karina and has to avoid situations where he and his made-up sister Persona have to be in the same room. Fuck me, this show is dense with problems, but I'm getting ahead of myself already. Anyway, our assassin pays a satanic Jawa money in order to get pointed in the direction where she can find the Jedi she's looking for. And this assassin is pretty ass at being an assassin, because she proceeds to walk right into a crowded bar and demands her target to attack her first.
Attack me with all your strength.
Now, I'm no expert, but isn't an assassin supposed to at least try to be more covert than this? Did she spend all her money on Shadow the Jawa Hog's information? She could pay someone that could get the Jedi to lower her guard and lure them away from the public. She could pay someone to distract her directly or by starting a diversion while inside the bar, and then make her move then. Now, if you're saying, That won't work. Jedi can sense the motivations of multiple people around them. They can block multiple projectiles from multiple angles. And you think Jedi Master Trinity here can only focus on one thing at a time? And I'm here to tell you that when it comes to making the Jedi look competent, this show doesn't do that here. And so an alien at the table laughs, some other guys laugh, I laugh.
Even he's like, what the fuck? Yeah, I'm with you, my guy.
And after we all have a good laugh at how cringe this chick is, Trinity tries to defuse the situation.
I appreciate your courage, young warrior. I have no quarrel with you. Jedi do not attack the unarmed.
Yes, you do.
Ooh, what does that mean, huh? We'll get to that later. Our dark side assassin decides to first waste her energy by fighting with random assholes closest to her instead of directly going for her intended target. I assume her plan is to force Jedi Master Trinity into defending the people being attacked, so she can fight her one-on-one. It would have been a more direct result if she had just attacked Trinity directly and forced her to defend herself. Instead, Trinity takes her sweet time and allows innocent people to get seriously hurt or possibly even killed before she actually decides to engage the assassin. It's hard to tell who was getting trolled harder here, the assassin or the audience. This lapse is the first blatant sign that the Jedi aren't going to be portrayed even at the baseline level of what you'd expect. We get a fight with what seems like some decent hand-to-hand combat. The assassin must realize she sucks at this point though, because she gets increasingly frustrated and then starts throwing her little paring knives around.
I put that knife away, bitch, before you have an accident.
Trinity splits them all into shrapnel with her lightsaber, and then we get the Star Wars version of,
"Hey man, don't pull it out unless you're gonna use it."
A Jedi doesn't pull her weapon unless prepared to kill.
The assassin hears the bartender stumbling around and decides to get Trinity vulnerable by throwing the knife at him. Now, in order for her to do this, she must have an understanding of the general nature of a Jedi. She would need to expect that a Jedi wouldn't allow the innocent bystander to get hurt, and she would be right. But if Trinity isn't willing to let it happen to this guy here and now, then why did she waste so much time allowing it to happen to all those other innocent bystanders and patrons? I feel like the show is trying to tell the audience that their understanding of how a Jedi is supposed to be is wrong, and that the understanding written into the characters of the show is what the Jedi actually are. Too incompetent to focus on two things at once, I guess. Trinity even takes a moment to clearly read and register what the intent of the assassin is, but instead of attempting a mind trick, or a force push, or force pulling the knife from her like what was already done, she looks at the assassin how a mother looks at their toddler when they have a crayon in their hand next to a white wall. I half expected her to threaten counting to 3 at this point. The assassin throws the knife at the bartender, and since the Jedi can only focus on one thing at one time apparently, Trinity is left vulnerable to yet another paring knife. Did I mention this was a Jedi Master? She doesn't try to force push the assassin and remove the blade so she can force heal herself or push the assassin away so she can attempt to escape. No, she just slowly and pathetically falls to the floor and dies. The assassin spent half of the fight trying to grab Trinity's lightsaber, and now that she finally killed her, decides to leave the lightsaber on the ground but force pulls one of her tiny daggers from the ground. If only she had thought to bring the lightsaber with her on her quest for revenge. It might have been more useful to her than she had thought. The assassin then approaches the bartender and potential witness to probably snuff him out, but she stops when she sees a scared child watching her, and so she spares both of their lives and leaves. I wonder why this gave her pause.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme, hopefully it'll work.
But there we go, getting ahead of ourselves again. The setting changes to what looks to be a spaceship or space station, and the quarters of what looks to be our assassin. Here she awakens to her little Game Boy brick phone droid, with a seemingly different demeanor than who we just saw in the last scene, and it's already evident what is going on in this story. Now to be fair, the reveal of the twins was already spoiled fairly early on before the show aired. However, I think it's pretty safe to say that a lot of people could pick up on this almost immediately anyways, even before they were about to try to mislead you as the audience.
Osha, why didn't you come out last night? You missed a wild trip to Nashadar with the piloting crew? Yep.
What I do with my days off is none of your business, Philip.
This young lady with Booker T dreadlocks is Osha, and she's what's called a mechanic, which I guess is just a mechanic, and she does dangerous things like putting out fires in space? Even if you suspend your disbelief for the sake of sci-fi fantasy, this scene takes you out of the show. I would have bought this even if they were in low orbit or just barely above the atmosphere, but in outer space, it looks and sounds out of place even for old school Star Wars standards. But you see, the plot needs this fire to happen because it reawakens something traumatic that Osha has kept in her subconscious. Sure, this fire could have happened inside the ship at a different crucial part and would have made more sense, but nah, who cares, do it in space because Star Wars. It turns out the ship is a Trade Federation ship, and there are 2 Jedi here to board it. Wait a minute.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up.
You see, having mechanics are illegal, and that kind of work is only supposed to be for droids because it's dangerous. Doesn't look like they're being forced into a spacesuit to put out space fires, though.
You missed a wild trip to Nar Shaddaa with the piloting crew?
I bet the danger pays pretty well, and that's why they're willing to do this and not turn in the Trade Federation representatives they work for. Don't worry though, they aren't here because of that necessarily. The Jedi are here to talk to Osha, and if the Trade Federation doesn't tell them the truth, then the Jedi are going to search their minds without a warrant, because all Jedi are bastards, right, show? Anyway, this is Jedi Knight Yord Fandar, and his apprentice Tassilawa, who we will never see again for the rest of the show after this episode. No, really, I'm serious. Osha returns to her quarters where Yord is already there waiting for her alone. And for some odd reason, looks like he just got caught touching his dick or something. And yes, he is alone in a room because his Padawan didn't enter the room until moments after Osha did. We'll come to see that Yord likes to do weird things when he thinks he's alone. Yord and Tassi question Osha so we can get some exposition and background on her character. Osha has been working as a mechanic for 6 years. It has been 6 years since she left the Jedi Order, where her training didn't work out. It didn't work out because she was mourning. She was mourning because her family of 2 mothers and a sister along with her entire village died in a fire. This made her difficult to train. We get all of this clunked out one right after another, and even Osha feels like it's unnecessary for us to hear it all.
Yord knows all of this.
The ever so flawed Jedi racially profile Osha and say she fits the description of someone who murdered Jedi Master Trinity, who apparently was one of the Jedi who thought Osha wasn't able to train properly. If she wasn't able to complete her training, then how could she be suspected of overpowering and killing a Jedi Master even if she does fit the description of the killer? Rogue Force users are not a common or known thing the Jedi regularly encountered during this time. I know because the show told me. See, a few in the dark corners of the galaxy learn in secret. Also, if Yord is so afraid to be alone in a room with her, and if he really suspects her this much, then why doesn't he just read her mind? Why doesn't Osha let him? The bartender from Ueda enters and confirms as an eyewitness that Osha is the same person that killed Trinity.
I ruined my bar!
Now at this moment, if Osha knows she has a twin sister, even if she thinks she is dead, this is the point where she should probably consider the fact that her twin sister maybe, just maybe, might be out there alive. She should even say something like, "It could be my twin sister out there alive somewhere, but that's impossible. I saw her die," or something like that, which would make Yord aware of information that he didn't know. But the show thinks it's written better than it actually is, so it doesn't want that revealed yet. Not to Yord.
It doesn't matter what I think.
Not to us as the audience. So instead of volunteering for a forced polygraph test, she just stands there looking like an idiot and lets the Jedi put her in handcuffs and take her to a prison transport ship. And instead of saying all the things she could possibly say at this moment, all she gives is a mopey,
I'm making a mistake.
We change setting to Coruscant at the Jedi Temple, where younglings are having a guided meditation session with the Jedi Master and one of our main characters, Saul. He looks like he's seen a ghost when one of the children mentions a vision of fire, but he diverts into a metaphor about the Force being powerful like a fire and must be respected. And just when all the kids start to put on their people sus faces, another Jedi Master arrives with an urgent message, and so Saul sends the younglings off to snack time. This is Jedi Master Vernestra. She loves opening doors with the Force. And if you read the High Republic books, which I sure as fuck haven't, then you must be excited to see her in live action for the first time. I hope you didn't like her, because if this Green Bean had character, then it's surely assassinated and destroyed by this show. But we'll get to that later. Green Bean tells Saul that his friend Trinity has been killed and that the prime suspect is his former Padawan Osha. This immediately sounds off to Saul, and he is quick to voice his skepticisms. Since we know now that Saul knows Osha has a twin, and since we know now that Saul's love for Osha overrides any other motivations he could possibly have.
He justified every selfish step with the love he had for your sister.
And since we know now that he thinks he watched May die but never confirmed her death, Saul should already consider the possibility that May survived. How is it that nobody knows Osha's sister was a twin? She never told any of the other younglings what she went through? Did Saul tell her not to tell anybody? We get more exposition, and it's funny because once again the character that's being exposited to verbally expresses the fact that they feel like they are being told things they already know in order to inform the audience.
I remember.
It's hard to tell if Vernestra is slightly annoyed with Saul or that the actress that plays her is slightly annoyed with her wife Leslie Headland for writing like this. We establish Green Bean's motivation that she wants to prevent political pressure from being applied to the Jedi Order by handling internal matters with as much discretion as possible. I'm sure none of that will be contradicted later. We go back to OSHA on the prison transport, and ooh, they have facesuckers here. No, not those facesuckers. These are the good kind, I guess.
He's having a great time.
It does weird stuff to your brain.
Well, that can't be all that bad. See? Who would want to escape this ship? All these assholes apparently do, though, and they even have an idea already. Isn't that convenient? One of OSHA's cellies, a freaky-ass robot with a human face, sends out some sort of signal that shuts down the droid pilots and drops the ship out of hyperspace. Wait, what? How is it able to do this? Have restrictor bolts not been invented yet? Can all droids just control other droids at will? Or is it just this particular model? The ability to automatically control or shut down droids completely free of connection might cause a lot of issues and raise a lot of questions in some of the other Star Wars movies and shows. You know, the ones where they fight a whole fuck-off war against the droids. Do you know how quickly the Republic could have won the war against the Separatists with these things as generals instead of Jedi? Fuck you, show. One of OSHA's other cellies, not King Shark,
Bullshit! What the fuck?
uses his, head tentacle to rip apart the robot guard and grab his arm, which is needed to open the door apparently. Which is weird because I didn't realize droids have fingerprints, but hey, maybe there's a QR code or a badge on that mechanical hand. Even though OSHA just told all these guys that they're idiots for planning an escape, when she can see their plan is actually working, she begs them to get her out. That's pretty funny. They justifiably tell her to go fuck herself and make a break for it. We get a shot of the outside of the ship as their escape pod launches, and yep, it's the same ship that was docked to the Trade Federation ship, which poses a problem. If this is supposed to be the prison transport that OSHA gets on with the droid-only crew that later crashes, then where's the ship Yord and Tassi arrived in and would need in order to leave the Trade Federation ship? Did they call Uber after they let the droids take OSHA? Because this ship is about to crash to some random planet, so they obviously are not on it. This means when they arrested OSHA, they awkwardly stayed behind and either asked someone else to pick them up or asked the Trade Federation. They just threatened the mind trick to now give them a ride back home. And if they did end up leaving with OSHA on the prison transport but later separated off, they never showed that. How characters travel from point A to point B and then the point C falls out from under this show like the bottom of a soggy cardboard box. Like a grotesque, underdeveloped bio-experiment in a lab somewhere, the lack of connecting tissue was already preventing the show from even standing upright. The ship bumps into an asteroid and OSHA's Game Boy gets knocked loose from an overhead compartment. But her Swiss Army droid is just out of reach, so instead of reaching for the droid directly, she reaches out with the Force and tries to pull it into her hand. I certainly wouldn't put it past Disney to give Force powers to characters that haven't earned it or shouldn't be able to use them. I thought we were going to see it inch towards her a little bit, but to the show's credit, OSHA isn't able to use the Force at all. But who needs the Force when the plot needs you to grab the droid and free yourself anyway? Obviously she needs to get the fuck out of here, but because we need to see that she's a good person, OSHA goes back to save her last celly. You know, the one that is allegedly so dangerous that he needed a face sucker slapped onto his mouth in order to put him into a Star Wars version of a K-hole.
It does weird stuff to your brain.
Yeah, let's free and save that guy. For all we know, he could be a murderous cannibal, and that's why that thing is stuck to his mouth and scrambling his brain, keeping him subdued. Anyway, OSHA gets off lucky, because instead of him immediately doing what a violent criminal would likely do in this scenario, he pushes past OSHA and escapes to the last escape pod. OSHA then does externally what this show makes me do internally. Realizing she's pretty much screwed now, OSHA straps herself in and hopes for the best, I guess. Lucky for her, the ship she was on didn't break apart when it entered atmosphere. Remember in Revenge of the Sith when the ship that was many times larger still broke apart when it entered Coruscant's atmosphere? Am I supposed to believe that even though her ship began to superheat, it didn't break apart because of, what, this planet is cold? I guess the fluffy snow prevents the ship from being torn apart from jagged rocks as well. Oh, fuck off. Back on Coruscant, Saul is creepily looking at an old hologram of his former Padawan OSHA, and even he knows it's creepy because once the Padawan Jeki Lon enters, he closes the hologram faster than the porn tab on a company computer. He even tries to walk away like he's trying to hide a boner. Jeki tells Saul that Vernestra wants him to meet her in the detainment level, where not King Shark and all the other assholes are, already apprehended and taken through hyperspace again to Coruscant?
Bullshit! What the fuck?
Didn't we just see them escape? These writers treat storytelling like a ninja warrior course. They are scrambling to bypass anything they perceive as an obstacle to make it as quick and easy as possible. Vernestra informs Saul that the prisoners mutinied and forced the ship down over a planet called Karlak. She tells him Osha is not among the survivors. Saul asks if there's any sign of life on Karlak, and Vernestra tells him that the Republic dispatched probe droids to survey the wreckage. So, if the Republic is just now sending probe droids to Karlak, then how, when, and where did they find the mutineers? Was it somewhere else on Karlak? Was it in nearby space or orbit around Karlak? If they were found that quick and easy in their tiny escape pods, how can Osha be harder to find in the wreckage of a fairly large ship? Especially if they already know it went down over Karlak before the probe droids were even sent. And as we're about to see, Osha has just been taking a nap in the wreckage of the ship this whole time. Not that we have any idea how long it's been thanks to this show's shitty writing. Saul wants to go to Karlak and bring in Osha himself. Vernestra is reluctant to sanction his journey because she believes he is too important to the Order. I sure hope that doesn't get contradicted later. On Karlak, Osha wakes up in the wreckage of the prison transport. The last couple of scenes makes it feel like things are moving fast, but apparently it's been long enough for the torn open ship exposed to the blizzard-like weather to freeze from the inside out. Osha should have either died in her knocked out sleep, or at least would have woken up with immobilizing hypothermia. But nah, she's fine. She gets up and goes for a little sub-zero stroll, no big deal. But oh no, spooky shadow. Oh, okay, it's gone. However, Osha decides to follow it and the show cuts away. Great. This back and forth we're having doesn't feel choppy and misaligned at all. Back on Coruscant, Saul is about to leave for Karlak with this small team of Jedi consisting of Jecki and, Yord. I'm sorry, is this scene necessary? Is this essential to Yord's character or the plot? It's so funny to me that the same people who say, "Why are you criticizing Star Wars? Lucas said it's made for 12-year-olds," see awkward-ass scenes like this and try to form a whole cultural phenomenon around it. Yes, I'm talking to you, hashtag Yord Horde, which trended after this episode aired.
Perfect reply with the Yord Horde. Come on. Hayden, I hear that you kicked off this whole name and this Yord Horde family, and from Charlie Barnett, who is just a mere casing for the Yord of it all.
But we'll talk more about things of this nature later on. Anyway, Yord tells Saul,
"I should have brought Osha in myself. I apologize for my error."
Yeah, you should have. That would have been the obvious thing that would happen. If you thought Osha was able to take down a Jedi Master, what the fuck is a droid guard going to do when it has no defense against the Force that you assume Osha has the ability to use? How the fuck did you even get here? Like I said, you sent Osha off on the only other ship there was other than the Trade Federation ship. How long ago even was that at this point in time? Did you really not bring Osha because you were in a rush to get back here so you can steam your fucking cloak and jack off in the mirror?
Oh, robe's all done. He just needs a little zhuzh.
If there's a character that must be killed off in this show, at this point I already want it to be this douchebag. After another awkward moment with weird facial expressions, Saul, Yord, and Jecki leave for Karlak. We wipe back over to Osha on Karlak where she catches up with the shadow that turns out to be her as a child? No, it's her sister because just about everyone saw that coming. But is this a Force vision? Is it freaky witch thread magic connecting the minds of Osha and May? Is it more Force Skype shit like we saw in TLJ? Oh god, please tell me they aren't bringing back the Force dyad shit again. But nope, it's just a bad dream. A Force dream. A thread dream? Which means Osha has been unconscious in the freezing cold for even longer than we thought, so she should definitely have frozen to death or have caught immobilizing hypothermia. While en route to Karlak and hyperspace, we need more exposition done. And how do we get this? By asking stupid questions, of course. So Jecki asks Saul,
"How well do you know this former Padawan?"
You mean how well does he know the child he trained until she left the Order as basically an adult? The incident on Brendok happened 16 years ago, and Osha is supposed to be around 8 at that time. Osha left the Order 6 years ago when she would have been around 18. That means Jecki is asking Saul how well he knows a Padawan he trained for 10 years. Obviously, it would be pretty well, but exposition's gonna exposition, so Saul tells Jecki and Yord that 16 years ago he met Osha on planet Brendok, where Osha's twin sister May started a fire that killed everyone in her family and village, leaving Osha as the sole survivor. And I'm left wondering what was the point of Yord telling this to Osha earlier on if we were just going to hear it again from Saul 20 minutes later with barely any detail added. Yord says he didn't know Osha was a twin, while Jecki adds that's not in her file. We know now that the fact Osha was a twin was covered up because without the other twin, there couldn't be proof of a divergence in the Force being present on Brendok.
Without May, there was no proof you were created in this way.
So what? Are twins not a naturally occurring biological aspect of life in the Star Wars universe? The fact that Osha is a twin shouldn't actually be a big deal at all. The only reason why anyone would ever need to hide the fact that someone is a twin in this story is because whoever wrote this decided the plot hinges on it. Saul, Indara, or any other of the Jedi involved don't even need to hide the fact that Osha is a twin. They just need to hide the fact that the twins were virgins of the Force, which shouldn't be that hard since they didn't even fully know what they were dealing with in the context of the events of Brendok. We'll get there though, don't you worry. After hearing Osha has a twin, Jackie starts to put 2 and 2 together for us since the show doesn't trust the audience to do it for themselves. Saul says that Osha's twin May couldn't be alive and the true suspect because Saul watched her die.
But not really.
Obviously, Yord and Jackie would have more questions about all of this, but they've arrived where the plot needs them to be, so no time for that. Not now, not later, not ever, until the show wants those questions to be answered. Down on Karlak, Osha is still not frozen to death? She hasn't even tried building a fire to keep herself warm. The inside of the ship's wreckage looks like the back of an apartment freezer that hasn't been touched in several months. We are completely decoupled from time and space again. In any case, Osha is stranded with a small amount of whatever the fuck supplies at best. And as far as we can see, a remote and uninhabited tundra. She is innocent, accused of a crime she didn't commit in the wreckage of a ship that crashed from a mutiny she had no part of. She needs help. Even if she gets arrested again, it's better than this because she isn't in a frozen, jagged wasteland and she has a chance to clear her name. What she should do is wait for the Jedi, even try to get their attention. But nah, things are boring when they make sense, am I right? And we need some drama and suspense, so let's have her run off and make herself look more guilty instead.
To where?
The Jedi land to inspect the crash site. Yord says nobody could have survived while Jackie insists that someone has clearly been there. Yord's reply to this is,
Scavengers, Padawan.
where the fuck would scavengers even come from? How would they even have the time? You fucks seem to get everywhere instantaneously while time surrounding your destination stands still for you until you arrive. This ship randomly dropped out of hyperspace in a random location in space. There were no other ships around to see this happen. How would anyone besides the Jedi and the Republic know? Karlak may have a civilization somewhere on it, but nowhere near here it seems. Saul clearly starts to feel something through the Force and tells Yord and Jackie to follow him, presumably in the direction of Osha's location, meaning Saul can use the Force to sense where people are. I'm sure that will come in handy later. I hope he doesn't forget he can do that. Soon they are hot on the trail of Osha, or I guess in this case it would be cold on the trail of Osha. Because it's snowing so much they can barely see. And I know I've been harping on this, but after seeing the snow in these shots, yeah, there's just no way. The Jedi catch up with Osha, and in almost parody fashion we get an end-of-the-line meme scene.
Let's go, misters! You want to get shot? I didn't think so.
Look, man, she doesn't want to go back to the lab. And for the record, I ain't gay.
I didn't do it. Please, Saul. Believe me.
Please believe me. Please believe me.
What happens next is so insanely predictable that I almost don't even want to go over it because I feel like it's a waste of time, even for a video this long. Osha inches back towards the ledge, loses balance and falls. Saul quickly uses the Force to grab a hold of Osha, but instead of what should be a reflex of quickly pulling her back up, he just lets her hang there for a moment. To emphasize the spectacle of the Force being used, I guess. Was this supposed to be suspenseful? No pun intended here, but they left this moment hanging for a little too long. After being lifted
back on solid ground,
Osha tells Saul that her twin sister May is actually alive. Saul should immediately have several questions, but instead he simply tells Osha,
I believe you.
Which is fine and all, but these characters aren't acting like people. The level of information they are willing to stop at is bizarre. Osha is reassured that she doesn't need to run anymore and goes along willingly with the Jedi. We get our final screen wipe to our closing scene, and we get a reveal of the big bad of the show, along with what is probably the worst piece of dogshit dialogue that permeates this entire 8-episode show on both a fundamental and thematic level. First you hear the voice, and you already know what's coming.
The Jedi live in a dream they believe everyone shares.
Yet another masked villain edgelord with a spooky voice. It's like all Disney keeps trying to do is create the next Darth Vader. And even though the last few masked villains have all been jokes,
Hey.
don't worry, This one will definitely be taken seriously.
If you're not gonna join me, I'd like to put my clothes back on. I'm wondering if it's honorable to kill me like this.
And then once you think about the words that come next, it's hard to get them out of your head for the rest of the show. I don't mean that in a good way.
If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel or laser are no threat to them. An acolyte kills without a weapon.
So that was a fucking lie.
Well, this is awkward. It's like whoever wrote and directed this last scene didn't watch the rest of the show. This should have been the opening scene. We should have seen this before May leaves to Ueda to kill Andara, because then we would at least be wondering how May was able to prove her master wrong, instead of wondering why the show is contradicting itself at the end of this episode. This scene and this dialogue is a herald of the nonsensically soulless sublevels of writing this show seeps down into. Being shown something so blatantly contradicted this early on is like knowing a leak has sprung and will inevitably develop into a festering mold problem of miserable themes and storytelling. Episode 2 opens on the planet Olega at a local Jedi temple, where a child appears to be messing with the door droid. We see May hiding in the shadows, and it's evident May is likely on her way to kill another Jedi.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
Except this time she's being sneaky about it? This time she can pay someone to cause a diversion? Why didn't she try any of this in the first episode? What the hell? May then ditches the sneak level 100 and goes for the old hiding in plain sight, I guess. Which I guess just works because she walks right past one of the Jedi while wearing a mask and looking suspicious as fuck, to which the Jedi doesn't even give a glance to. Is it COVID season on Olega? Do people normally walk around with masks on in this temple? Doesn't look like it. This seems like a small temple. I can tell because she makes her way straight to the room she needs to find. Wouldn't she stick out like a sore thumb here? Wouldn't she be instantly unfamiliar to anyone that sees her? She finds Jedi Master Torben meditating in the employee break room, and instead of trying to take advantage of what seems to be him being off guard, she spoils her element of surprise and tries to break Torben's meditation by challenging him directly.
Attack me with all your strength.
Now, to be fair, Torben has a force barrier around him, so even if she did try to assassinate him from behind while he was meditating, it wouldn't have worked. I'm just saying it's super weird that she didn't even try. After challenging Torben and seeing that he's still moisturized, unbothered, and thriving, May tries to strike him.
Trying shit and trying shit, trying shit and trying shit, don't work. Trying shit and trying shit, won't work. Trying shit, switch it up. Trying shit, won't work.
So she can strike first without requiring her target to
attack me with all your strength.
What is even May's plan here? Even if Torben did what she said and came out of his meditation to fight her, there are other Jedi close by in this small and quiet temple that would hear and come rushing towards this room. Does May think she can defeat him fast enough before that happens? Because if it would take anywhere near the amount of time to fight Torben than it took to fight Indara, then Torben would have backup arrive and May would be outnumbered. May is lucky as fuck this failed and didn't go the way she was trying to make it go. May can hear that the Jedi realize there's been a break-in, and so she escapes through a skylight window in the roof. Torben sure picked an odd place to meditate, which we will talk more about in a bit. Back on Karlak, Osha wakes up in the Jedi ship, the same ship she came aboard to be tested by the Jedi all those years ago. It would have been something if they had her take a moment to recognize this. And as she takes in her surroundings, they can do the echoes of the past sing again, like with the fire. But no, instead we get this interaction with Osha and Jackie.
Well, any astromech can do the job, but I'm better company than a droid. And, way more flexible.
Do you have a suit or a nitro, please?
So we're just doing sexually suggestive innuendos now? There's no other way to read this. Everybody knows that if a woman unprompted talks about her own flexibility in this kind of tone, it's usually her way of flirting and alluding to her flexibility in bed. Or, since this is obviously a woman flirting with a much younger woman, the show is probably trying to insert its coded dialogue by having Osha imply that it's her sexuality that is flexible. Kinda messed up for her to be trying to get a Jedi Padawan to think this way about her and plant a seed of temptation in Jackie and potentially get her to break the Jedi code. All of that may be extremely awkward and cringe, but the worst thing about this is the age difference. Now, I'm not completely sure how aging works with Jackie's species, but judging by the age group the show portrays her to be in, I would would say Jackie is a high school teenager age around 16 or 17. Osha should be around 24 years old. I don't get why these kinds of relations are pushed to be normalized in these kind of communities, but there's just no other way to read this scene other than Osha is trying to flirt with and groom an underage Jedi Padawan. But hey, considering the fact that Osha turns evil by the end of the series, I guess this checks out. If the Acolyte is supposed to be TV-14 and this kind of dialogue is okay because, oh my god, it's just so you.
It's pretty gay, let's be honest.
I don't want to hear shit about how Star Wars is for 12-year-olds or merely Space Wizards for children anymore. Go fuck yourselves. Saul enters the room and Jackie's reaction confirms my suspicions because the look on her face looks like she knows she's not supposed to behave this way. Wasn't she just trying to lecture Saul from a by-the-book standpoint in the last episode?
Why do you keep old hollows of your former Padawan? This pastime encourages sentimentality and nostalgia, and both of these emotions can lead...
Just shut the fuck up.
Saul continues down the hall of the ship and Yord tells him that Osha should be restrained because she escaped once before. What the fuck are you talking about, Yord? It's not like she went along with the mutineers' plan and escaped the prison transport. She went down with the ship. What did she escape from? Your negligence? Even you said you should have brought her in yourself. Yord tells Saul that May would not have had the training to defeat a Jedi Master. Shut the fuck up, Yord. We've been over this. Why would you think Osha would? Do you think Padawans are trained to defeat Jedi Masters? Saul, can you please explain to Yord how much of an idiot he is?
Osha hasn't trained in 6 years.
Fuck it, that's good enough. Yord says if the twin theory holds true, they could be working together. If that were the case, then Osha wouldn't have told Saul that May is alive. She would have tried to obscure that in order to aid her accomplice. That way, if Osha does remain in custody of the Jedi, they won't feel the need to go looking for May out there somewhere. Saul tells Yord to chill out and heads to the cockpit where he FaceTimes Vernestra. She tells him another incident has happened on Olega where someone matching Osha's description has broken into the local Jedi temple. Saul asks Vernestra if she would rather have him go now to investigate on Olega or bring Osha to Coruscant. Vernestra tells him to go to Olega and bring Osha because she could be an asset, meaning she wants Saul to use Osha as bait in order to draw out May. May isn't trying to hunt Osha though. Bringing her along would only complicate the murder mystery mission and make her a liability. But she's the main character, so of course she'll end up going along. Saul returns to the rest of the group and tells Yord to set a course for Olega. Osha says Torben is on Olega. Wait, how the fuck do you know that, Osha? Have you been keeping tabs on Torben while you're working as a mechanic? You are a prime suspect in an investigation about hunting down and killing Jedi. So you being so quick to know this isn't exactly absolving you of all crimes. If anything, you make Yord's theory about the twins working together look more plausible now. We've already seen that Torben is on Olega minutes ago, but I guess the show doesn't trust the audience to remember 5 minutes ago. Then again, these first 2 episodes are the most boring and hardest to pay attention to, so maybe it was a necessary reminder. Yord is reluctant and is about to voice his disagreement, but then Saul tells him,
The Jedi agree with me.
Which is a weird choice of words. He should have just told Yord that they have orders from a ranking Jedi. Saul just saying the Jedi agree with him sounds kinda lame and juvenile. It makes it sound like a sibling telling their other sibling that their parent agrees with them. Yord would have gone along with something like a mandate from a ranking Jedi, I imagine, but instead, Saul puts him in his place and they all depart to Olega. The scene wipes over and May is heading over to the liquor store where her accomplice Chimera is passed out from drinking. Like I mentioned before, we know now that this is the big bad Smilo Ren. Perhaps he is just pretending to be passed out from drinking, but I think it's kind of funny to think that Smilo was actually like, fuck it, and got drunk after he probably killed the store owner. May tells Chimera that she can't kill Torben by attacking him, so she needs to do it her way, by apparently having a poison made. While making the poison, Chimera tells May that she has something only she can give him, which is absolution. And so the plan becomes getting Torben to drink the poison. It's so funny looking back on the theories about this episode. People suspected early on that this guy was the masked villain with the red lightsaber, and thought that since he made this poison for May, that they were introducing Darth Venomous into the Disney Star Wars canon. I'm not about to get into all that though, so if you want to know more, then check out Wikipedia or read the Plagueis book, I guess. Chimera gives the poison to May and she thanks him. But before she leaves, she says,
It wouldn't bode well for either of us if you told him about this.
To which he says,
Of course.
Wouldn't he be pissed off that May isn't achieving the goals of her training the way he designed? She tells Chimera that she will eventually kill one of the Jedi without a weapon. That means he knows she killed Indara with a weapon, and can clearly see that she is going to try to poison Torben. Is he surprised at all that May killed Indara with a small dagger after he said,
If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel or laser are no threat to them.
Wouldn't that please the master just as much as killing one without a weapon? This won't be the last time we're haunted by that dialogue, I promise.
An acolyte kills without a weapon.
Oh, shut the fuck up. While on the ship en route to Olega, Saul walks over to Osha to have a little talk. Saul asks Osha if she believes May killed Indara, and Osha says that she likely did and must have survived that night on Brendok because it's the only way to explain the current incidents. Saul tells Osha that he wanted to save both her and May. Osha tells Saul that what happened wasn't his fault. Saul says he has made peace with what happened on Brendok. Anyway, this is when Saul should have told Osha that there is more she should probably know. I know Saul says he made peace with what happened, but right here and now is an opportunity to actually make peace for both him and Osha. It's a prompted conversation leading him right into it. But instead of any characterization remotely interesting with any sort of substance, all we get is,
And I wasn't a very good student.
Perhaps I wasn't a very good teacher.
excuse me, you two have actual shit you need to talk about and relitigate given the current situation. But of course, right when you would expect the conversation to continue, they arrive at Olega so more plot can happen. This is the second time in 2 episodes in a row that the writer has done this. They use hyperspace travel as a means for exposition dumps, or in this case, drip feed. And then as soon as you expect more, the characters reach their destination and it interrupts the conversation. No mentions of their importance and the need to finish them later. Nope, just people saying things and moving on. At the local Jedi temple on Olega, our team of protags are about to conduct their investigation. Meanwhile, one of the local Jedi meets them at the door, and instead of them talking on the way to the room where Torben is, the Jedi all talk about how nice of a day it is outside and decide to have a chat out there for a while instead. The plot needs them to stay out there for a while because May is about to sneak back in through the skylight window in the break room. Wait, why is it not closed, and why is not a single person guarding Torben? Not even another one of your surveillance droids? Jeez, this must be the Minneapolis Police Department of Jedi temples in the galaxy, because these Jedi seem severely defunded. Yord asks one of the Jedi there to explain what happened the night before. Unnamed Jedi number 1 tells our main characters that someone spotted a hooded intruder and then alerted him. Who was the person that spotted May and when? Was it this person that walked right past her without giving her a second glance? This was the only person that could have seen May. Also, the hood is what was off about May's appearance, not the mask. Don't Jedi wear hoods all the time, even indoors? The mask should absolutely stand out more than the hood does. Unless they were referencing the fact that May's hood wasn't some raggedy wool cloak like theirs. Not their fault, I guess. I suppose they can't all have sweet gold Coruscant robes. Well then. If May's supposed to be the Acolyte, then this guy must be the Snackolite.
Ha
But there's nothing light about his snacks, it seems.
Get in my belly!
Maybe he can try the Torben diet, just meditate for 10 years and eat nothing. He'll be all good. Snackolite tells our crew that before the security droids failed, they caught the little girl May paid to be a diversion on camera. I'm sorry, did he say droids as in the plural sense? If they do have more than one, why the fuck don't they have one on Torben right fucking now? Little girl says that the person that paid her looked like Osha with the hood on, and now everyone's suspicion of May's survival and recent activity are confirmed. Saul then demands to speak to Master Torben. By the way, when did Torben become a master exactly? He has been in the Barash Vow state for 10 years. And as we know, the Brendok incident was 16 years ago, and he was a Padawan then. So did Torben really go from being a Padawan to Jedi Master in just 6 years before he took the vow and refused to speak to anyone? Or did they give him a promotion to Master in the time he's just been floating there in the temple break room? Inside the temple, May confronts Torben again and tells him she knows exactly why he took the Barash Vow. Which I won't get into too much, but in this show's context, it's basically spiritually exiling yourself into a perpetual forced meditation state. According to Wikipedia, Disney Star Wars doesn't even have their shit together on this, and it's in their High Republic canon. That's so fucking funny, dude. May calls Torben out by saying he thinks taking the vow would give him peace, but he knows his past still haunts him. And so she gives Torben an ultimatum. Confess to the council,
Or receive the forgiveness you seek. Right here, right now, from me.
He breaks his meditation and tells May he's been waiting for her. So he's just been meditating for 10 years waiting for May to grow up enough to eventually come and kill him? Did he receive some sort of forced premonition about her and her revenge? Finally, our main gang is on their way to where Torben is. If they had treated this matter as urgently as they should have and let the local Jedi tell them what happened on the way to Torben's room, then they would have likely caught May in the act. While walking through the halls of the temple, Osha can hear her name being called and can see the young version of May standing off to the side. Kinda like what happened on Karlak. The apparition of young May runs down a side hallway and Osha breaks off from the back of the group and follows what she is seeing. Whatever the hell it is. Is this Osha's subconscious leading her to May? Is this May's subconscious reaching out to Osha? May is currently trying to kill Torben undetected, so why would her own subconscious blow her cover? Why is Jord the only one that notices Osha breaking off from the group, and why can't anyone else sense it when Osha isn't even that far behind them? If this hall is a shortcut to Torben's room that allows Osha to get there before the rest of the group, then why did the local Jedi walk the whole group right past it and take the longer way around? Surely he knows his way around the temple, he said he searched every part of it. So now our main characters are double delayed
For no reason!
in order for the plot to progress the way it wants to, and to set up a false suspense that instantly gets debunked anyways. Osha finds Torben dead in his room and approaches his body to find the empty vial which contained the poison May gave him. As this happens, the rest of our investigative team finally catch up and enter the room. And for some reason, none of them wonder how she got there before them, when their likely assumption would be that she has been right behind them this whole time. Since Osha being alone crouched over Torben's body obviously looks bad, the local Jedi ignites his lightsaber towards her. When Jord enters, he comes from the same direction as Osha and explains that she didn't kill Torben because he was following her the whole time. Osha acknowledges that Jord just helped to absolve her of all crimes and thanks him. I'm sure she won't forget that later. Osha, having smelled the vial, tells Saul that the poison was derived from bunta leaves on their home planet of Brendok, which must have a strong odor because Chimera mixed it with what looked like hard alcohol, and she can still smell it over that smell. The Jedi move to conduct a stakeout of the corner liquor store where they believe May got the poison. Osha says that the poison made from the bunta leaves won't hold up for long if it's distilled, and so it had to come from nearby. Sure, whatever you say, Osha. I'm just wondering why none of you thought it would be a good idea to go and investigate Brendok for clues after doing this, though. If bunta leaves are exclusively growing on Brendok, then clearly someone is going there to harvest them. For all they know, it could be May herself. It could be where she's hiding out. It could be where her and her master is hiding out. Even given how the show says the poison works, any investigator worth a damn would obviously see this as a lead of Brendok to follow up on. Even if Vernestra allows Saul to go to Kofar, and even if that is what he would rather do, Saul should still mention the evidence that has a connection to the recent activity on Brendok. And if Vernestra can send someone to intercept May and extract Kilnaka from Kofar, then she can send someone to investigate Brendok. But instead of having that likely scenario play out, the writers in the plot want to save investigating Brendok for the final episode, so it can end where it all began.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
While surveilling the liquor store, Osha asks if it's the only one in town. Acolyte says it is, but when they see Chimera arrive and enter, Acolyte tells the group that he isn't the regular shoprunner. Saul asks the group for suggestions on how to proceed, which is odd because he is the ranking Jedi Master in the group. I'm not sure if he has taken the time to stop and use this serious and urgent situation as a teaching moment, but he should be the wisest among them with the better formulated plan. Jord lays out his plan, which is securing the perimeter, having Jecki as a lookout, while Jord confronts Chimera. He says he will stun Chimera if he has to, and take him back to their ship for questioning. I may not be fond of Jord, but sure, why not? This seems like a solid idea. This is Disney Star Wars though, and some of the most estrogenic Disney Star Wars at that, so we can't have any men calling the shots here. Which leads to the youngest and most inexperienced of the group somehow having what the show thinks is the best plan, and a nice shot of the men having stupid looks on their faces. Jecki's plan is to simply have Osha go in and talk to Chimera while posing as May. Jecki's theory is that this will draw out further leads and even a confession out of Chimera, if he thinks he's talking to his accomplice. I'll admit that Jecki's plan isn't the worst plan in the world to implement. It's just that if we go with Jord's more direct plan that is likely to have more direct results, then the show is over. Presumably, if they question Chimera while he is in their custody, Chimera would either heavily resist and give them a reason to read his mind, or he would have spilled more information than he would while not being apprehended in the shop. He is willing to tell the Jedi about May's plan just to get them to leave. Can you imagine how much he would tell them while in custody and even more desperate to not have his mind read? And if Chimera gave them some sort of force resistance to any mind reading, then it would be obvious to the Jedi he is trained to resist and is hiding something. They would eventually figure out that there is far more to him, but the plot hungers.
It hungers for more!
And so instead it needs us to go with Jecki's plan. Why don't they combine their plans? They can literally have Osha go in posing as May to draw out incriminating conversation and take Chimera back to the ship for questioning. If they suspect him and May are working together, then they should know that doing this would hinder May's operations. It could potentially save lives. Instead, even though the show is trying to tell us that what our characters are about to do is the best possible plan and that Jackie is smart for coming up with it, what happens is fucking inept. Osha buys some cloth that she drapes around herself to kinda look like May,
But not really.
and heads into the shop to confront Chimera. Under the cloth is the head of her Game Boy droid that she's using as a wire. She starts by awkwardly greeting him twice.
Hello?
Oh. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
You're doing great, Osha. Totally not sus at all. Did Osha not even take a minute to think about what she would say to direct the conversation towards Chimera spilling incriminating information about either him or May? Chimera, probably already onto Osha pretending to be May, asks if she's alright and says that she's back a lot earlier than he expected. All Osha can think to say is,
I wanted to see you.
Chimera is surprised by this and asks Osha if she's okay again, and if the poison worked. He even comments on how strange she's acting. Chimera then says,
You killed Torben without the poison. He will be so pleased.
Now, Chimera is supposed to be shrewd, and if he is quickly onto the fact that he is not talking to May, he should want to keep as much to himself as possible while calling out Osha and saying she isn't really May. But the plot needs Chimera to be stupid in this scene in order to progress. So instead, he says what Osha needs him to say without her even trying to be craftful in this conversation. Osha continues her charade and tells Chimera that she did in fact use the poison. But by now, we can actually see that Chimera sees through this and tells Osha,
You look exactly like her.
implying that he knows she's not May. I feel like Osha was so bad at this that even if Chimera wasn't secretly a Force-sensitive dark-side user, he would still be able to tell. But if he is looking at Osha through the lens of the Force and is able to tell who she is and what her intentions really are, then that's all the more reason why he shouldn't have given away all that he said so unprompted. Of course, a first-time viewer of the show and someone who wouldn't know Chimera's true identity yet might not pick up on this issue. But the more I rewatch this show, the more it falls apart. Chimera / Smilo Ran shouldn't and wouldn't be entertaining any of this shit. I understand that this character feigns a certain level of incompetence as a disguise to hide their more powerful true identity, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm sure by now you are starting to notice a pattern in all of this. Osha draws her stun blaster and the Jedi come rushing in to surround Chimera. Jackie tells him,
We know you supplied May with the poison that killed Master Tobin. We have your confession.
to which Chimera says,
This is her. I didn't know what she was going to do with that stuff.
Liar!
Dude, they just said they recorded you. Do you not remember saying,
You killed Torben without the poison.
already it looks like you're going to lie and or play dumb with us, so fuck it. We're gonna have to go with your words plan now. Let's take him back to the ship for questioning. Saul, back me up on this.
If you cooperate, we will consider letting you go with a warning.
Son of a bitch!
What the fuck are you talking about, Saul? You were willing to mind trick the random inmate just for a lead, but you aren't willing to at least mind trick this actual accessory to murder when it could obviously give you an even stronger lead or possibly solve your investigation? You have nothing to lose and everything to gain just by doing something you were already established within your character as being willing to do, to someone even more guilty and even more deserving of it. You even wanted to keep him talking. And now you know he knows something about May and her activities, but is willing to lie about it. Even if you think Chimera has given you some truth, which, to be fair, he has, why would you take his word for it without verifying? Why doesn't Yor try to mind trick him? He was willing to do it to the Trade Federation ship captain and he was even an accessory to murder. I thought this show was trying to portray the Jedi as needlessly invasive. None of you fucks even asked for this guy's name. What if you have to come back and question him more and he skipped town or skipped the planet? Who the fuck will you be looking for then? Why aren't the local Jedi here also trying to find out who Chimera is and asking what happened to the usual shopkeeper?
Answer me!
Anyway, Chimera thanks Saul and says,
Please don't do the memory wipe thing or whatever it is you guys do.
I guess this is supposed to be funny, but a rewatch makes it a lot less funny when you're reminded of him actually doing this to May and all the psychological problems that would come with that. Saul asks Chimera what his relationship is to May, and he gives Saul his cover story.
I'm just her supplier. Yeah, I started out gun running for the Hutts. Now I supply people like her with what they need for the right price.
Not a single person can sense his dishonesty because the Jedi aren't allowed to hardly sense anything in the show. But then we get this moment.
Who is he?
I thought he was with you.
Okay, that's kinda funny, I guess. But funny can't make up for this show's writing. And even if it could, this is a drop in the bucket for what it would take in order to do that. The only thing I find funny about this scene is the fact that Smilo Ren is legitimately willing to sell out May in order to get the Jedi to focus on her, and not push further towards discovering the true nature of his existence. Saul asks if May has a master, and Chimere seemingly panics and actually gives them a kernel of truth, even though he contradicts himself. Chimere says he has no idea what's going on with May, but then proceeds to tell them something major about what's going on with May.
I have no idea what's going on with that girl. All I know is that she wants revenge on 4 Jedi.
Then he helps the Jedi plan a trap for May by telling them that they can get to her tonight since he is holding her purse for her. Saul tells Yor to secure the perimeter, Jecki to get to the ship, and Osha to go with him. And then they just leave Chimera there.
Seems like a huge miscarriage of justice.
With the wipe of the screen, it's nighttime and the new stakeout is on. On the comms, Yord asks Jecki what if Chimera is lying and he is leading them into a trap. Well, fuck Yord, I guess if you didn't trust him this much, you should have taken him into custody or read his mind then. Chimera said he was holding May's purse, so I presume it's inside the shop. What the team should have done is taken Chimera into custody and set up for Saul to have a confrontation with May inside the shop. This would also give them the time to look for other clues that may be hidden in the shop at the time, like maybe a Cortosis helmet and a red fucking lightsaber perhaps. Saul can still confront May alone, and once she's inside, the rest of the team can cover the exits. Speaking of the team, why aren't the local Jedi part of this operation either? One of their temple masters has been murdered on their premises, on their planet. The culprit hasn't even left a village and could be apprehended tonight. They don't have any sort of investment or obligation to this matter. We could have gotten an interesting interaction between the local Jedi and the Jedi from the Republic capital of Coruscant, and how their jurisdictions, mandates, and investigative styles conflict with one another. There are better ways to show me the Jedi are flawed or constricted by red tape than just telling me to hold my hand out so you can shit in it and tell me that's what the Jedi are. Inside the local temple, Saul and Osha are arguing about whether or not she should go with him to confront May. Saul tells us what Osha's emotions are.
This is grief. You want revenge.
And Osha tells Saul he's not her real dad.
You are not my master. I do not need your permission to go out there and confront her.
Okay, not quite, but pretty much. Saul says he couldn't save both Osha and May when they were children and wants Osha to let him try now. For some reason, Osha feels the need to tell Saul the plot of the show.
She wants to kill 4 Jedi stationed on Brendok 16 years ago. Indara, Torben, Kelnaka, and you. She wants to kill you.
Saul tells Osha to have faith in May and to have faith in him, and then walks away to go confront May. Outside, Yord spots May, and instead of allowing her to enter the shop so she can be cornered, Saul moves in to confront her in the middle of the street where she has plenty of directions to run away in. Instead of realizing she's obviously in a trap and trying to escape immediately, May attacks Saul and they begin to fight. We get some more pretty decent hand-to-hand fighting while Saul tries to get May to tell him who trained her. After some exchanges, Saul flips May and then uses the Force to freeze her in midair. Damn, that's a really useful and powerful move. I hope he doesn't forget he can do that. But even though Saul is obviously more powerful than May, she just breaks herself out of his hold. Fucking how? Saul is a Jedi Master and you are barely trained wearing your own panties on your face. This fight should be over, but it's not allowed to be. Saul tells May that Osha is alive and we get a double dip of terrible delivery from Amanda Stenberg.
My sister is dead! You lie!
Oh my God, dude, I just know these were one and done takes. Amanda Stenberg and Leslie Hanlon probably think screaming your lines is what raw emotion is or some bullshit. May tries to escape and then Yord and Jecki move in to try and cut her off and arrest her. May unleashes a powerful force queef, which kicks up a huge dust cloud and she gets away.
I've lost visual.
So that ship that Jecki is in doesn't have any sort of life scanners? Forget Star Wars sci-fi technology, even regular IRL helicopters have infrared heat cameras. Jecki should be on the comm still telling the rest of them May's every move. Osha, having heard every detail of this altercation on her end of the comms, decides to try and pursue May. May runs through the crowd and gets hit by a speeder, which is pretty hilarious. She decides to do a little GTA, but right before she takes off, she gets a good look at Osha. She might or might not have believed the Jedi, but this is the first moment that May knows her sister Osha is alive. This is going to be important later. Even though Saul said OSHA knows how to use a stun blaster, I guess he didn't realize OSHA was such a bad shot. She shoots at May and misses so much I thought this was intentional. But she then runs out into the street and fires one more shot, which also misses. At first I was wondering where all these people came from, but I guess they were just hanging out in the background so May and Saul can have their fight. Saul and Yord catch up to the area, and for some reason they don't bother asking OSHA which way May went. Yord just said a moment ago,
We have to stop May before she escapes from Olega.
where the fuck did Jackie go? Shouldn't she be flying overhead still? Did she just circle around and disappear? Why are you assholes just giving up right now? Fuck it, we're just letting May get away now, I guess. Aren't you guys going to at least try and find Chimere now? He's still your lead and lead to May. Are you guys going to really just forget about him? They're not done here, but the plot needs them to be.
Seems like a huge miscarriage of justice.
So back on the ship, Saul gets on a Zoom call with Vernestra and she tells him to get back to Coruscant, where a discount council will discuss the situation. Saul says there's no time for talks and that he knows where May will go next. If that was the case, then I don't know why he's wasting time talking now. There's clearly more work to be done before you report to Vernestra. Vernestra has been telling Saul to go investigate, and now all of a sudden...
We don't make decisions like this without meaningful discussion, Saul.
It is now the next day and Acolyte is on lookout for May or Chimere. Chimere suddenly reappears into the story like a game piece that fell on the floor and is getting put back onto the board. Where the fuck has this guy been the whole night? Has he really just been chilling inside the shop? Did he go somewhere else and hide? May also comes out of nowhere and tries to shank Chimere, but he dodges her swipes with little effort. This is what tipped a lot of people off to him being Smiler Ren, seeing as how May is supposed to be a Force user, and he is at least on par with her movements. May says Chimere sold her out to the Jedi, and that she should kill him for it. Well, at least one of them should be trying to kill the other right now. May certainly has her motivation. If Chimere is a Sith, he should be ready to take May out, since she has too much heat on her from the Jedi at this point. And she is a liability that risks the Sith being discovered too early. But he says he can make it up to her by getting her out of the city and on the way to Kofar, where another one of May's targets is located. How? This village's gates and all the spaceports in a radius of miles should have Jedi stationed there making sure nobody fitting May or Chimere's description leaves, remember?
We have to stop May before she escapes from Olega.
May says OSHA is alive and Chimere says he knows. We know now that in episode 4, May says,
OSHA being alive changes everything. My loyalty is to OSHA, not your master.
And this causes her to betray Chimere. So why isn't that happening now, especially while she's still mad at him for selling her out? When Chimere tells her about Kelnaka on Kofar, May should tell him to fuck off and that she is going to go try to find a way to get into contact with OSHA if finding out she's alive really changes everything. We'll talk about what does change everything for her though when we get to episode 4. Acolyte, having been distracted by a Padawan thought, notices that Chimere has escaped his surveillance. Wait, so he is a person of interest for you guys then? Why the fuck didn't any of you local asshats come along with Saul to question him fucking yesterday? Did Torben take the Barash vow and kill himself because he felt guilty about the past? Or did he do it just to get away from all of you utter retards? I'm glad to get away from all of these remedial characters when the scene wipes over to the forest planet of Kofar. We see two scavengers making their way through the forest when they stumble upon an old downed ship. They discuss stripping what's inside for parts, but little do they know this is home to a Wookiee Jedi named Kelnaka who finds them in his front yard. They try to shoot Kelnaka, but he grabs the gun with the Force and snaps it in half to scare them off. As they're running away, Kelnaka roars at them in a way which, in my headcanon, is him literally telling them to fuck off in one of the 3 Wookiee languages. As Kelnaka heads to his homestead, we get the end credits, and wait, what the fuck? The end credits? That was it? These episodes were the premiere episodes. They were supposed to get people excited and hooked onto the show. But these first 2 episodes have pilot syndrome, and they feel the need to have the characters spell out the plot along with their motivations and emotions at every turn. For a Star Wars show that is TV-14 and supposed to be for an older audience, it doesn't seem to trust the brain development of its target audience. The show's rewatch value plummets in real time, scene by scene. These first 2 episodes were already boring as fuck, but being cursed with the knowledge of where it all leads and knowing it's not worth the second trip makes it even worse. All throughout, we have characters stating the obvious, a myriad of more pragmatic courses of actions that could have been taken, but get thrown in the ditch wayside of the tracks the plot needs to run on. When these episodes were first airing, there was at least some time to wait and see and room for speculation. There's nothing left to hide behind now. We have the answers now, and even Leslie Headland knows they're inadequate because she is still having to explain missing pieces in articles and interviews, even if they do contradict the show. More on that later though. When the trajectory of what this show was shooting for was still in the air, we could kind of see where it could go. But since we know now that it's a shot in the foot at worst and a shot in the dark at best, what the show really needs is a shot to put it out of its misery.